We'd like to move on to the next segment today, which is the panel discussion on adapting to an evolving normal with omni-channel customer engagement, hosted by Shraddha Thapa. On her behalf, I would like to welcome our panel guests, Mr. Manish Vora, Mr. Venkatesh Kidambi, Mr. Arindam De Sarkar, and Mr. Amol Gupta. A brief round of introductions before Ms. Thapa takes over. Ms. Thapa has more than 14 years of organizational experience in the messaging space. Currently, she manages and assists with new products for Infobip across India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal, working on new solutions like WhatsApp Business APIs, conversation platform, and the likes with product partners like WhatsApp and Google. Mr. Manish Vora, our guest, is a digital engagement evangelist with extensive experience across banking, financial services, insurance, and telecom. He heads customer service for SBI Card, the second largest card issuer in the country, where he leads digital transformation across customer experience, cross and upsell, and operations. Mr. Venkatesh Kidambi, the global head of digital marketing platform and CRM at Kimberly Clark, brings with him 16 years of experience in brand building, digital transformation, CRM, and analytics on a global scale. Mr. Amol Gupta joins us from 99 Acres, where he serves as the Vice President, Process Audits. He loves to design processes, which means scalability, flexibility, and personalization in fast evolving high tech industries. And last but not least, we'd like to welcome Mr. Arindam De Sarkar, who is the DGM of Service Excellence and Hospitality at Woodlands Multi Speciality Hospital Limited, whose experience spans 19 years as a healthcare experience expert. So let's give them all a warm welcome. And Ms. Thapa, over to you to kick off this panel discussion. You have the next 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nisha. I hope everyone can hear me. Can I request my esteemed panelists to turn on their cameras? We have, okay. So very good evening, all of you. It's a pleasure to host you for this panel discussion. The topic of our discussion today is adapting to an evolving normal with omni-channel customer engagement. So the word disruption has taken an entirely new meaning as the world navigates through this pandemic phase. Even though COVID-19 has shifted a significant amount of customer traffic to digital channels, but some customers just won't let go their traditional channels. Hence, adopting the blended traditional and digital has become a must-do for enterprises. To adapt to evolving customer behavior and preferences, businesses are now evaluating different omni-channel offerings and opportunities to innovate and fill in the gaps. Omni-channel platforms actually bring in the convenience and they offer a great opportunity to meet customer expectation. And let me share some numbers with you. According to McKinsey reports, we have 1 billion mobile subscribers, 500 million online, 300 million on social media. So if you see, India is the largest and the fastest digitally enabled market, and with rapid digitization, with internet penetration, mobile penetration at this scale, we do have a lot of enabling and catching up to do. And to master omni-channel marketing, I think it'll be really good for the customer experience that we want to create and the whole ecosystem, as we are moving towards better customer experiences. And this is what the topic is all about. So to kickstart my discussion, I would actually like to ask Amol, real estate is a very scattered in terms of stakeholders. There are builders, there are distributors, there are stock brokers. I mean, there are brokers. So how do you think you will kind of enhance customer experience in this era?
Yeah, Shraddha, you are absolutely right when you mention that real estate is a distributed space with a lot of stakeholders involved: brokers, builders, marketing executives, and so on. we estimate around there would be around 15,000 brokers in the top markets, the metro markets, and because of which there is a lot of information asymmetry out, right? And how does this information asymmetry impacts a real estate buyer? Let's understand the customer journey. So for example, a customer wants to buy a home. So the first step that he'll do is he'll do some market research, and that market research would be to understand uh, in his budget, whatever he has, what kind of configuration he will be able to afford, what are the projects, what are the localities where he'll be able to afford to. Once he has done that, he'll shortlist some of the localities where his budget allows, and then he will start making contacts with the sellers. Either they can be brokers, they can be builders, or they can even be owners. Now, once he has done that, he'll make the site visits, and then the deal is done. However, in the first two steps of of the journey, there is a lot of information asymmetry which impacts him, right? And 99 acres, what it does is it reduces that information asymmetry by making all that information which he wants in a way that is easily discoverable, and it facilitates decision making. So just to illustrate my point, what 99 acres does is we have around 10 lakh listings, right? And among that, around 1.6 lakh listings are verified, which means that we would have gone there on the property and clicked the photos ourselves, which means these are completely verified. We know they exist, right? Then there are around, we have 100% of the projects which have been approved by RERA on our site for the customer to view. And these projects have all relevant information in them, and they are kept updated all the time. Then we have the landmark information, which is also verified by us. One new thing that we have started doing is we have collected a lot of locality and project reviews on our website. And these locality reviews, when I say, these are not done by us, right? These are done by the real buyers, real owners. As of now, we have around 1 lakh plus reviews on our site, which makes the information unbiased, and therefore it facilitates the customer to make decisions. We also have 3D floor plans, and there are around 2 lakh listings which have 3D floor plans. A 3D floor plans allows a user, especially the lady of the home, the prospective home buyer, to understand how the home will look like, where will the sofas be placed, how will the kitchen be looked. So all these information provided in such a way that it is easily discoverable, people can compare, and then they can take a decision. This is how we have been able to leverage the digital platform to reduce the information asymmetry and therefore make the decision process smoother.
Yeah, it's a wonderful platform. I am a consumer itself, so it's a great initiative. In fact, it makes life a whole lot easier. Moving on to Venkatesh. Venkatesh, the question for you is, like Kimberly Clark being one of the pioneers of India in its segment, what strategies and tools have you deployed to up level the customer experience? Since India is not an easy market, so we want to hear from you.
Thank you, Sharda. Thank you for the question, and thank you, Nisha, for the introduction. The new normal and the pandemic that has hit us has actually accelerated both the consumers as well as the brands like Huggies, Kotex, their journey towards digital and how they have adopted omni-channel engagement, and various digital channels and properties that we basically own have exploded in the last 1 year or so. We at KC think that omni-channel is not just about being on every channel, but it's about being on the channel which is of preference to the consumer. We want to deliver personalized experiences on the platform of the consumer's choice, and that has basically, directed our growth. That has been the directional, guide for us to develop our digital capabilities and implement various omni-channel strategies that we have. We have, gone to market with various digital, say, new initiatives, existing initiatives. And to that end, we have gone to market in India, Brazil, Argentina, Malaysia, Philippines, to name a few. All of these markets are very highly challenging markets in terms of them being very cluttered, in terms of a lot of local players being there, and in terms of it being completely diversified in terms of channels. Say if you go to something like Philippines, you would possibly be much more engaged on Facebook Messenger, whereas in India, it's about WhatsApp. Or in Vietnam could be about Zalo, or say something of our European markets could be about Telegram or Viber and so on. So that being the case, we are looking at a strategy in which we can reach out to a consumer on their channel of preference. Let me give an example. We have started mom's channel on WhatsApp India, wherein this is about engaging moms during the pregnancy, providing pregnancy support to moms, providing medically vetted tips and advice to mothers who need it the most. And this has given us tremendous response in Indian market. And we have chatbots and consumer care that is being led on WhatsApp in countries like Brazil, Argentina, where the channel of preference, again, to reach out to a consumer care kind of a channel is on WhatsApp. Or if you go to Philippines, as I said, in Facebook Messenger, we have started some chatbots on Facebook Messenger, and also on say very localized platforms like KakaoTalk or Zalo in countries like Korea and that is South Korea and Vietnam. So we have embraced digital wholeheartedly, and we have ensured that we are reaching out to the consumer where they prefer, how they prefer. And this is basically delivered us immense amount of value in the last 1 year or so. And in terms of our market results, we have been doing better than ever. And I would attribute at least a part of it, if not a lot of it, to our embracing the digital channels and the way we have gone about reaching out to the consumers and providing those personalized experiences on their channel of choice. I keep repeating on their channel of choice because omni-channel more or less is right now trying to say I am there everywhere. That's not going to cut the ice, because if you're there everywhere, you're spread too thin, and you're putting your resources and you're putting your investments everywhere, and that ensures that your one single interaction might not be the best quality. So the consumer insight of where the consumer wants to be plays a key role of which channel would I basically choose in the plethora of omni-channel say capabilities that are currently available.
Yes, I completely agree. Customer preference is the way to go. Actually, getting to customers on all channels may get frustrating, and I think this is the change that we are actually witnessing these days. That brands are actually looking for the preferred channels that the consumer would want to, be engaged on. So this is really great. And not only are you looking at customer engagement, you're also looking at customer sentiments. And the use case that you mentioned is really great. The mom's one. So I
Of
really
course, we are a
appreciate
mom.
that.
Of course, we
I'm
are
a
a
mom
mom.
too, so I can really connect.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. So moving on to next question, which is for all the panel members. We want to understand from you all that what are the omni-channel trends that you've seen, especially in pre-COVID and post-COVID era. Like we're calling this post-COVID, but hopefully it remains. And the customer experience, we want to know, is it still the driving factor for omni-channel? Because we want to understand what new technologies are you exploring to enhance customer journey. And since we are talking CX, I would like to start with Arindam, as healthcare has been the most critical industry in the last 1 year. So we are all ears, Arindam.
Hi, good afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a nice platform to express my experience during the pandemic times, because I have been a patient and I have been also the customer service excellence head of this hospital. So I can relate to both the sides. So when the COVID started, it was actually a very serious matter for everyone in the society. And we were also new to this disease. So we were not knowing what is going to happen, because in the media, a lot of positives and negative information was passing out. So we were only on dependent on the medias and also the Western countries' informations and the China's information and all. But ultimately, when we face the scenario, the doctors, I mean, I'm talking about the clinicians and the nursing teams, they have understood that, this particular type of disease had got different angles of different age groups. For the young is a different, for the aged people, they have turned in a different side. So taking all things into considerations, healthcare is something without touch, without seeing a patient, a doctor cannot diagnose even what has happened with the patient. But during this COVID scenario, there are a lot of things have changed into a digital platform. Like a hospital was divided into zones where your COVID patients were being kept, and we have restricted, as per the government rule, we have to restrict their patient relatives to come into the hospital. Now, to connect with the patients and the relatives along with the doctors, what we have started actually was the virtual communication, and we have made a fixed timing for the doctors with the patient relatives and also the patient with the patient relatives. So actually what happened, they were every day they were connected, but those patients who are in a critical conditions, we didn't allow the patients to talk about with the patient relatives. It was only the doctors who spoke with the patient family members. So that was the first step that we took into the healthcare industry of these virtual communications, because we wanted everyone to be connected about the condition of the patient, because the family members are not allowed to come into the hospital. That was one part, but at the same time, while the doctors were actually communicating with family members, they were also guiding the family members how to protect themselves from not being get infected by the COVID things. So that was the first initial step. Then followed by, we have actually also launched the satellite unit, where those patients who are not so critically ill but can be managed in a separate facility, we also set up that place. And what we have done is, basically we have done without the ICU facilities. In that, we have put the is actually a hospital with all the facilities of doctors, nurses, F&B, housekeeping, and everything, but it was directly connected with the main hospital, through again the digital platform. Even the doctors who were not, even though sometimes the patients wanted to talk to the doctors, so there was a single point of contact. Doctor's number was given to all the patients who were staying inside the room. They can at any point of time do the WhatsApp chatting with the doctors, even do the video call with doctors, and they can even explain what they wanted to say. The doctors were always at time to explain the condition of the patient and guide them. So that was another way of connecting in a digital platform. So these were
I
the
really agree.
channels. And not only that, if you look at, we have the Woodlands Hospital, which is basically a 75 years and the most oldest hospital in Kolkata. So here we have actually started the Facebook Live, which the doctors explains to the community that how, for all the specialities, it's not particularly for any particular specialty, it's all the specialities, how to deal with the conditions. So this is what, so these consultations, if you have any problem, then you come to the hospital. But there is also a learning and also the awareness to the community that how the individual diseases can be treated or can be prevented or can be dealt with. So this is how the Woodlands Hospital have started during the pandemic situation. And post-pandemic, there are a lot of things that we have done.
Yeah, I truly agree and appreciate. I can take a moment to thank all the healthcare industry, and they've stepped up. And adoption of omni-channel has actually helped us in this pandemic. It'll be so true. So moving on to Monish, waiting to hear from you.
Hi, thanks, Shraddha, and thanks. It was lovely hearing what the other panelists had to say. See, the way I put this is, both marketing and services over a period have evolved from an era of what we used to call traditional segmentation to now what we call hyper personalization, and what I call the segment of one. Uh, the point is, every individual is just that, is an individual. And every individual wants to be acknowledged, understood, and treated that way. That is why it is very important, like Venkatesh spoke earlier, to understand what is the customer's preference. Every customer will have a preference for a channel, and it's important for us, for any organization for that matter, for any B2C organization, to be with the customer when he needs you, where he needs you, and in the form that he needs you. Now, you cannot be all pervasive, and you should not be all pervasive, because that is not really, it's like a shotgun approach. You're all over the place without really being effective. And how do you actually do that? Now, the biggest point is, you cannot obviously be everywhere for everyone. And this is where I think we as an organization, a lot of organizations particularly, in the last 2 years, I would say, who started adopting both artificial intelligence and data analytics have seen that this has really worked to our advantage, because for you to understand what the customer preference is, you first need to know the customer. And for an organization like ours, which has millions of customers with millions and billions of interactions which are happening, it's very difficult if you do not have the right kind of intelligence engines and the right kind of data analytics behind to actually understand who the customer is, what does the customer want. And when we talk about this, the most important thing here is how do you predict and how do you preempt what a customer's need could be. It's always easy for you to do anything in hindsight, but what is it that you can do to predict a customer? My friends in customer service will agree, the most painful, and in fact everybody would agree, the most painful channel to get in touch with an organization is the IVR. Nobody likes to get in touch with the IVR. An unfortunate part, but the fact is it's a reality that before you get in touch with an agent, you will have to traverse through an IVR. Now, we realize that this, while it is a channel which may not be preferred, but there are ways that you can actually make this channel more intelligent. And this is where we move from a traditional IVR to a contextual IVR. What do I mean by a contextual IVR? A contextual IVR is an IVR which is intelligent enough to understand what is the likelihood of a customer reaching out to me and what is the chances that he's reaching me out for an X item. If I'm able to predict that and I'm able to offer that upfront, the customer does not have to wait in line for a lot of things. And I'm happy to share that we actually have been very successful in terms of deploying about 4 to 5 contexts already, where our data engines are able to analyze the customer's past behavior and predict really accurately what a customer is calling for. So what is really happening is the customer is the moment he hits the IVR, I know it's Shraddha calling me, I know it's Arindam who's calling me because I know your mobile number. I know that in the last 10 days, this is what has happened with you. And I'm saying with reasonable certainty, probably this time around you're calling me to redeem a reward, or you're calling me to ask for a payment status. My engine is able to identify that and put that up to you upfront. So instead of you going through a 10-layer IVR where I'll say, press 1 for this, 2 for this, 4 for this, and 7 for this, I would say, are you calling me for this? And if it is accurate enough, you punch it and you don't even need to talk to an agent. You wanted to make a payment and I predicted that you wanted to make a payment and I've given that option to you. So I am personalizing it to you to the level where I am able to predict your behavior. And this is what a customer appreciates. And we found our CSAT scores on the IVR jumped 3-fold. So people who obviously did not rate us very high on IVR, they now find that this is a channel where we can actually use it to service themselves. And this is, I think, the biggest thing that we talk about. You can have multiple channels. The point is not about having omni-channel. The point is about having the right channel with the right intelligence that can predict what the customer wants and provide the customer. You may be 60% accurate, you may be 70% accurate. I'm saying even if you are 50% accurate, it's good enough, because the other 50% of the pain you're taking away. The customer knows what you're really getting in touch with him for. And this cannot be done without a huge interaction with the data platforms that we have. So you have to make sure that whatever data you have is current, is updated, is actually giving you and throwing you those insights. And I've given an example of a contextual IVR, which is just a very, very small thing, but there are so many use cases that you can use to predict and to actually service a customer a lot better. And that has been our learning. The other learning that we've had is, fortunately, or what has happened is during the lockdown period and the pandemic, because of social constraints, people were forced to move to the digital channel. But what has really happened is that people who were forced migrated, they've realized today that, hey, this is a much better channel than waiting to speak to an agent. So the stickiness of the channel has gone up. So what I would have probably reached in 2023, I've already reached now, just because the customer has started adopting that. And what really that benefits me is the moment a customer starts adopting a channel, the channel starts to grow, the channel starts to evolve. I'm not too sure, but I hadn't heard of Zoom before the pandemic, or Microsoft Teams, that the last 12 months we all survived on Microsoft Teams and Zooms, and my children on a Zoom all the time, right? I hadn't heard of Zoom before that, and forget about the market capitalization there. But that really shows that how technology which is coming is going to take advantage, and it's sticking on. So schools may have opened today, but my son still does his online classes.
You're so right.
Doing online classes, he's doing online classes other than school. So he does a Spanish class in a school today, which he was not doing. He's learning drums on school today, on Zoom today, which I couldn't even imagine. How can somebody learn to play an instrument through Zoom? And I have access today to the best of teachers just because that person is available maybe in Mumbai. The person will not fly down to Delhi for him to teach my son, but on a Zoom, he's omnipresent. So omni-channel for me is making sure that you're omnipresent at the time that you need.
You're so right. This is actually we all can relate to the examples they've quoted, and of course the IVR is something we can look up to. It's a great adoption at this moment. So I believe we are running short of time, but if in 30 seconds, if we can quickly wrap up with rest of our panelists before I conclude. I just want to quickly ask, like, of course, it is evident that, omni-channel is not a luxury that, we should, check out, but it's, of course, the necessity of the hour, it's the need of the hour. And where do you think omni-channel is going from here? I've heard from Monish, we are talking about contextual IVR and, adoption in terms of, the preference, the channel preference of users. So in 30 seconds, because we are falling short of time, if I can have one or two lines from each of the panelists, it would be great for me to conclude the session. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Amol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead. Yeah. So, as Monish mentioned and everyone is mentioning, digital adoption is something which is really driving the whole omni-channel agenda. And if we look at India in the last 3 years, we have doubled our internet penetration. We have moved from around 35 crores to now 75 crores internet users. And because of this large internet users, we also see on our platform that the traffic has gone 3x. And because there is now a lot of this data available with us, we can customize our recommendation, customize the way users use our platform just to surface them that information which is required, something very similar to contextual IVR, right? And we use this lot of this data in terms of understanding what content is right and what content is wrong. So there are we are able to use this data in terms of identifying some of the fake listings and remove those fake listings from our platform, making enabling the buyer to use the best of the information. Yeah, so I'll be short so that other people can also chip in.
Sure.
Yeah, for me, it's like, yesterday I was, and though we are looking at for all the things to be in a AI platform, because healthcare is moving in that particular direction. So yesterday we had a discussion with one of the company called Care Expert, who are actually linked with the Reliance and Tata healthcare sectors. What they are doing, what they are offering is what I feel is very good, that we are also looking forward for that, is like everything should have a real-time data for the internal people of the hospital so that they know what's actually happening. At the same time, we should also that the services that we are looking at giving it through digital platforms like printing, hoardings, and all these things. These will go on a real-time thing to the patient on the latest updates, latest technologies, latest informations to the community, the entire patient or the family members, so that they are also being aware. This is something a lot of the Western countries people, they are aware of everything because it is all being available to them by the government. Now here also we found that this is a very particular initiative that this company is giving, and we think we will be going forward to it and having all the things unexplored, but the things are there, it will be absolutely crystal clear to the people what they are wanting. Because healthcare is something which is everybody is looking at because of this, not because of the pandemic, but because of the regular lifestyle maintaining to everything. So I think the omni-channel and the digital platform and the AI, everything will club together. Will have a great changes in the coming days. That's what I feel.
Of course, we heard it from Rishikesh also earlier, like how government is also adopting the same. Moving to Venkatesh quickly.
Uh, I see a lot of challenges, both for the brands as well as for consumers. Consumers who are of the elderly, who possibly are not able to adopt to digital, would be forced to adopt to digital channels, if not now, maybe sometime in the near future, as brands accelerate their own adoption. And also challenges for the brand side in terms of scaling up on these multiple channels that we have and driving that hyper personalization at scale. I mean, looking at something like a global scale like I do, I have from Korea to Argentina and Canada to Australia to look at. So how do I drive scale of that range and yet drive personalization, local languages, artificial intelligence, chatbot, AI, ML data? With all of these tools and technologies that we are throwing in, more are the challenges, more are the solutions. So both go hand in hand. That's how I see it. It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, good perspective that we have from you. So some ending notes with Monish so that I can conclude the session.
Shraddha, thanks again. And I think while I propagated the digital channel earlier, let me take a 180-degree turn now altogether. Sir, saying that businesses have to realize there is no broad brush strategy. I think the biggest mistakes that businesses make is putting in a digital solution and thinking that it's a panacea. Everything is going to get solved by digital. It will not. And business should realize people are to handle emotions. And that is what they are good at. Machines and digital is to give information and to do action. I think the way, if we are able to evolve a mechanism which clearly distinguishes where a digital channel hands off to a human element, that is where we would have reached success. A customer, an insurance customer, when he is calling you to ask for a claim, he doesn't need to know what a claim form is. That person needs a comfort. That person needs somebody at the end of the line to give him or her a comfort saying, hey, I am there for you. You trusted me with your premium, I am there for you. Similarly, in banking, if a customer is calling you for a transaction that has got through, you need to be there for the customer emotionally to tell the customer, hey, hold on, nothing is going to go wrong, I am there for you. So make sure that we are able to identify what should go digital and what should definitely not go digital. I think the second part is more important than the first one. It is very easy for us to start pushing digital down everybody's throat. It will not work because it is not what it is meant for.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. In fact, to conclude this session and, the wonderful insight that I have from all the esteemed panelists, first of all, thank you so much. All I can say towards the end is, of course, we are looking towards a mixed, a blend of digital and traditional channels, not only to increase the customer experience, maximize our CX, but also to check out the emotional quotient and other patterns that we have to. So it's a mix. It has to be a blend of both. So with that note, I would like to conclude the session and thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
to
you all.
Thank you, Ms. Thapa, and thank you to all the great panelists we have today.